Chapter 2. The Serpent's Coils Titan. Detective Raven Blackstone hadn't slept. This wasn't unusual. Insomnia was as much a part of his life as bad coffee and disappointing relationships. But this time it was different. The Ouroboros symbol haunted him like a song stuck in his head, except more murdery. The Crimson City Police Department looked especially depressing at 6 a.m., its brutalist architecture somehow managing to be even more brutal in the gray morning light. Raven's desk was a disaster zone of coffee cups, case files, and what might have been a sandwich from last Tuesday, or the Tuesday before. Time was meaningless in the presence of old sandwiches. "You look like death," Rodriguez said, appearing at his desk with 2 cups of coffee and the kind of energy that only youth or cocaine could provide. Since she was a cop, Raven assumed it was youth. "Thanks. You look annoyingly awake." He accepted the coffee gratefully, even though it tasted like burnt regret. What did financial crime say about those documents? Rodriguez pulled up a chair, her movements precise and professional in a way that made Raven feel even more like a shambling disaster. "You're going to love this. Those projections, they show a massive sell-off scheduled for today at exactly 2:47 p.m. If it happens, 3 major investment firms will collapse." "Let me guess," Raven said, his detective intuition kicking in like a rusty engine. "All 3 firms are connected to our friend Ashwood." Bingo. But here's the weird part. Weirder than murder and cryptocurrency prophecies. The trades are already locked in. They were programmed into the system 3 days ago, using Ashwood's access codes. Raven leaned back in his chair, which creaked ominously. Everything in his life creaked ominously these days. So either our victim planned his own murder as part of some elaborate financial suicide, or someone had his codes. Rodriguez finished his thought, which was annoying but efficient. "I pulled the security footage from Ashwood's building. You need to see this." She opened her laptop, typing with the speed of someone who hadn't destroyed their nervous system with decades of police work. The grainy footage showed Ashwood's office, timestamp reading 3 days ago, 11:43 p.m. "There," Rodriguez pointed at the screen. "Watch his computer." On the footage, Ashwood sat at his desk, but something was wrong. His movements were too stiff, too mechanical, like a marionette being controlled by a drunk puppeteer. Is someone holding a gun on him? Raven squinted at the screen, wishing he'd admitted he needed glasses about 5 years ago. "Look at his eyes." Rodriguez zoomed in, the image becoming even grainier but somehow more disturbing. Ashwood's eyes were wide, unblinking, staring at something off camera with the kind of terror that made Raven's coffee taste even worse. "There's someone else in that room," Raven said unnecessarily, because stating the obvious was his specialty. "But check this out." Rodriguez fast-forwarded to 11:58 p.m. Ashwood stood up, walked calmly to the window, and opened it. Then he sat back down and continued typing. The window stays open for exactly 3 minutes. Then a figure in black appeared at the window. From the outside, they were on the 47th floor. What the hell? Raven's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. The figure climbed through the window with inhuman grace, stood behind Ashwood for a moment, then simply walked out the door. The timestamp read 12:01 a.m. Building security shows no one entering or leaving through the lobby during that time, Rodriguez said. No one used the elevators. It's like they just appeared. Or they were already in the building, Raven suggested, his mind racing like a hamster on a wheel that was also on fire. Pull everything on building employees, janitors, security, everyone who had after-hours access. His phone rang. Captain Morrison's name flashed on the screen like a warning sign. Blackstone, my office. Now. The captain hung up before Raven could respond, which was typical Morrison. Captain Janet Morrison's office was what happened when bureaucracy and disappointment had a baby. Awards and commendations covered one wall, each one representing a case that had gone right in a career full of things going wrong. Morrison herself sat behind her desk like a general, surveying a losing battle. Sit, she commanded, and Raven sat, because when Morrison used her commanding voice, even furniture obeyed. This Ashwood case, she began without preamble. You're stepping on some very expensive toes. I've had 3 calls already this morning from people whose names end with senator or CEO. Since when do we care about? Since always, Blackstone. This is Crimson City. Money doesn't just talk here, it screams. Morrison rubbed her temples like she was trying to massage thoughts directly into her brain. But that's not why you're here. There's been another body. Raven felt his stomach drop, like an elevator with cut cables. Where? Celestial Towers, penthouse suite, another financial type, Marcus Webb, same MO, 3 shots, center mass. And Blackstone? Morrison's expression was grim, which was like saying water was wet. They found another one of those coins. Raven stood up so fast his chair fell over. I need to get... There's more. Morrison's voice stopped him cold. The victim's assistant is missing. A woman named Diana Price. She was supposed to meet Webb last night but never showed. And get this, she used to work for Ashwood until 6 months ago. The connections formed in Raven's mind like a conspiracy theorist's dream board. Let me guess, she left right around the time this Ouroboros cryptocurrency started making waves? You're learning, Morrison said, with something that might have been approval if you squinted. Take Rodriguez and find Diana Price. And Blackstone? Watch your back. Whoever's doing this isn't just killing bankers. They're sending a message. What message? That's your job to figure out. Preferably before 2:47 p.m. when the financial district goes into meltdown. Raven left Morrison's office with his mind spinning faster than a Category 5 hurricane. 2 bodies, 1 missing woman, and a cryptocurrency plot that sounded like something out of a bad thriller, which, he reflected, was exactly what his life had become. Rodriguez was waiting by his desk, already suited up and ready to go. I pulled Diana Price's address and phone records. Last call was to a burner phone at 9:17 p.m. yesterday, right before Webb got ventilated. Raven noted. She's either in danger or dangerous. Or both, Rodriguez suggested helpfully. They took Raven's unmarked Crown Vic, which was about as unmarked as a police car could be, while still screaming cop car to anyone with eyes. The morning traffic was building, turning Crimson City streets into a parking lot with ambitions. Diana Price lived in Riverside Heights, the kind of neighborhood where young professionals pretended they could afford to live. Her building had security that was more suggestion than enforcement, and the doorman was asleep when they arrived. "Police," Raven said, flashing his badge at the unconscious doorman out of habit. They took the elevator to the 8th floor, its Muzak version of Girl from Ipanema, making the ride even more surreal. Diana's apartment was 812, end of the hall, with a welcome mat that said, "Go away," in cheerful cursive. Raven knocked. No answer. He knocked again, this time with authority. "Miss Price, Crimson City Police. We need to talk to you about Marcus Webb." Still nothing. Raven and Rodriguez exchanged a look that said everything about their expectations for what came next. "Super has a key," Rodriguez said, but Raven was already pulling out his lockpick set because apparently breaking and entering was fine when you had a badge and a bad feeling. The lock gave way with a click that sounded too loud in the empty hallway. Raven pushed the door open slowly, his hand on his weapon, every instinct screaming danger. The apartment was empty, not just unoccupied, empty. No furniture, no pictures, no signs that anyone had ever lived there, except for the lingering smell of expensive perfume and something else. Something chemical. "She rabbited," Rodriguez said, stating the obvious because someone had to. "Cleared out fast. Look at the dust patterns. Furniture was here until very recently." Raven walked to the window, looking out at the city below. The financial district's towers gleamed in the morning sun like teeth in a predator's mouth. She knew this was coming. The question is, was she running from the killer or... His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. "Detective Blackstone," the electronic voice said before he could speak. "You're getting warmer. The Serpent appreciates your dedication. Tell me, have you figured out the pattern yet?" "Why don't you tell me?" Raven said, trying to trace the call, even though he knew it was pointless. "Save us both some time." "Time is money, detective. And at 2:47 p.m., both will cease to have meaning for many people. Diana Price understood this. That's why she's beyond your reach now." "Is she dead?" "Death is just another transaction in the ledger of life," the voice said cryptically, because apparently even killers shopped at the fortune cookie philosophy store. You have the coins, you have the connection. The Serpent's mouth is opening, detective. The only question is whether you'll stop it before it swallows everything. The line went dead. It always went dead at the dramatic moment. "Did you get anything?" Rodriguez asked, though her expression suggested she already knew the answer. "Just more cryptic bullshit." Raven pocketed his phone. "But they mentioned the coins plural. They know about both crime scenes." "Inside information? Or they're watching us?" Raven's paranoia, which was already at a healthy level for a cop, kicked into overdrive. "We need to get back to the station, pull everything on Diana Price, bank records, social media, everything, and get tech to analyze those coins. There's something we're missing." As they left the empty apartment, Raven couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing catch-up in a game where the rules kept changing. 2 bodies, a missing woman, and a financial apocalypse scheduled for 2:47 p.m. He checked his watch. 9:23 a.m. They had 5 hours and 24 minutes to prevent economic Armageddon. No pressure. To be continued. In Chapter 3. The Mouth of the Serpent. Author's note for Chapter 2. This chapter is brought to you by insomnia and gas station coffee. Special thanks to my keyboard for not giving up despite the abuse. Diana Price will return? Or will she? Spoiler, probably, but in the most cliched way possible.